Hello everyone, I'm Tiam from Iran. I don't know how much you know about my country. Iran is one of the most ancient countries in the world, if you have any information about it. But as you know, the name of Iran was not Iran before. It was Persia. And it's almost like, I can say, 1 century that the name of Iran changed to Iran from Persia. And Iran means lands of Aryans. Today I'm here to share some facts about the country, and right now I'm in the city of Rasht, a city in north of Iran, very close to Caspian Sea, and a rainy city, of course. I can say it's the most rainy city of the country. Today is cloudy, but a little bit rain. It's not too heavy, and the temperature is like 12 degrees centigrade. And also, today is Friday, and Fridays in Iran are public holidays. So Saturday and Sunday are just like, the first working days for Iranians. But today is the weekend for Iranians. Maybe you can hear the sound of calling to pray. It's time to pray here in Iran. And it's almost finished. Just a little bit. We have to you can just hear the sound of some people that they are calling to pray. These are like speakers everywhere. But contrary to some Muslim countries, when someone calling to pray, not everyone go to the mosques. Just a few people will go to the mosques, and you will see only a few like elderlies, in the mosques to pray. The young generation, they don't want to pray. They don't care about Islam and religious stuff. But anyway, currently I'm in one of the main squares in the city of Rasht. And this city is called Municipality Square. I will tell you why. And let me just turn on the camera, you will see it better. This big square is one of the main attractions of the city of Rasht. I love Rasht, you can see the sign. And it's built about in early 20th century by one of the architects who inspired by Russian art and architecture. This building right in front of me was a police station before, and now it's become like a kind of municipality building, and it's under renovation. But you can see some banners on it that is for a kind of ceremony for like 3 or 2 days ago, because this big square is a place for people to gather. You can see people are coming here and they spend time in this place, and sometimes they hang out in here. And there is the other building just next to the municipality building, which was a hotel before. And Rasht was a city under the influence of Russians in early 20th century. Sorry, there was a motorbike. You may see many of them in here. So about 20th century, in 1914, Russians and Britons just kept the control of Iran because there was a chaos in the country. And I can say the last monarch of Qajar dynasty, sorry, this boy is just screaming. Okay, so I was talking about one of the dynasties in Iran, Qajar dynasty. When the Qajar kings came to power, Tehran selected as the capital of Iran, and I'm talking about like 250 years ago. But in the end, these Qajar kings were not that powerful. They destroyed the country, I can say. And Russians and Britons came to Iran. They tried to just take the control of the country. And that's why you can see the influence of Russian art, especially in the city of Rasht. Rasht is a city in north, and there was a place for Russians to come in. It was very close to the ports in Caspian Sea. That's why these Russians came to this city. And there's a story about one of the Iranian heroes called Mirza Kuchak Khan, and I'm going to show you his statue right there. I'm going closer. You can see the statue better. Mirza Kuchai Khan was from Rasht, and he was one of the revolutionaries. And he rose against the central government. He rose against the influence of Russian in Iran, and he tried to just create his first, I can say, troops, and also his first group to take control of the country. But, you know, there was a conflict between him and Russians, and the Soviet Union promised him, if you help us, we will help you to take the power of the country. But in the end, when after a peace treaty between Britain and Russia, they forgot about this promise, and they just left him alone, and he escaped to the forests in north of Iran. His body just frozen among the forests because there was very, very cold and it was snowy. And when the soldiers found his body, they brought his body to Rasht and beheaded him. And it's very, I can say, sad that it was like a punishment. They just brought his beheaded body without head and just took it around the city as a punishment for any revolutionaries. You know, they sent his body to Tehran. On that time, Reza Shah was the king of Iran, and Reza Shah was the first Pahlavi king. Pahlavi was the second dynasty after Qajar, and I can say they were the last royal family in Iran. He was the founder of this royal family. So one of his companions tried to get back his head to Rasht and buried him in a kind of monastery in the city of Rasht. You know, after his death, it was the start of Second World War. And it might be interesting for you that on that time, many Polish refugees came to Iran. And they just, you know, stayed in several cities of Iran, and Reza Shah was the king who helped them a lot. They came to Iran, they stayed in Rasht for several days because they came through the ports in Caspian Sea like Anzali port, and just stay in the city of Rasht for some days, and then they sent them to Isfahan, Tehran, and then Shiraz. These are like the major cities of the country. I've read, you know, the memories of all these people. Many of them were young women, children, old men, and you know, they were quite satisfied with staying in Iran. Children to schools, they gave them clothes, they gave them food, and some of them even married with Iranians. And the last one was an old lady. She was in Tehran, and she passed away a few, I think, months ago or last year. But they had very, very good memories in Iran, fortunately. You know, these Polish refugees, each of them, I'm sure, had very, very interesting stories. And I should tell you that Iran is a celebrity. They come to you to take pictures with you. They invite you to their house and something like that. The other building in this square is this one, which is Post and Telegraph Museum, and it was a post office in about 20th century. I need to tell you that Iran had one of the most ancient post system in the world. I'm talking about 3,000 years ago, around like 2,500 years ago, during Achaemenian, Old Persian empires. They invented a post system in the country. And how? They just, you know, by the order of the king and the empire, whose name was Dariush, they built small post offices between, you know, the major cities and the capitals on the royal road. And there were, like, you know, the horsemen who carried, you know, the messages on the horses, and they stayed in these kind of, you know, small buildings like post office. They changed their horse, they took a rest, and then continued their way to the next place. I'm going a little bit inside the city. you will see people in this square, but not Iranian culture, and also talk about some facts in Iran. You may not find it on the internet. You should come to Iran. You should live with the people, and then you can realize how people really live in the country. So, Iranian women, as you see, dressed up with like a kind of tunic with scarf in public places, because it's a law. According to Islamic law, you have to cover your body, as a woman, on the streets. But it's not mandatory when you are at your own home. In our private life, in our private parties and ceremonies, we don't need to do that. Something depends on your traditional background, or about your something about your family background, if they are religious. So, but if you come here, if you come to Iran as a tourist, you have to wear something like very short, like tunic. It shouldn't be very long, because tourists can wear appropriately, and not that strict. And you can just wear a scarf, cover your hair, and you can wear makeup, and so on. And besides that, I should tell you that women in Iran, students, are girls, and they love to study. They work in different field works, and for example, we have pilots, we have truck drivers who are all women. And it might be a bit. Sorry, I should turn the camera. It might be like interesting for many people, because some people, when they come to Iran, they had like, a different perception about people's life, especially about women. Some people think that women live like Arabs, Arabic women. They cannot drive, they cannot vote, but it's not true. Women in Iran, they can vote, they can drive, and yeah, they are quite powerful. You should come to Iran and see it. But on the other hand, if you wanted to get more familiar with Iranian culture, there is something very interesting about Iranian culture that I wanted to tell you as a tourist in Iran. There is a culture called Tarof. If you come to Iran, and if someone asks you, you don't need to pay, for example, for some services, like you take a taxi, and the taxi driver may tell you that you don't need to pay. It doesn't really mean that you don't need to pay. It's Tarof. Somehow they wanted to respect you. But it's very difficult to realize whether this is really Tarof, but it's not. Because some people really wanted to invite you to their house from the bottom of their heart. And this one is not Tarof, this one is real. And it's very difficult to realize which one is real, which one is not. The other thing is about Iranian currency. When you come to Iran as a tourist, at the beginning, Iranian currency, let me show you one of the notes, and then you can just understand it better. So here is Iranian real. This is the value. Hello again. Can you see me or hear me? Elena, I'm online. Way for that, because if you come to Iran as a tourist, if you come with your credit card, it's possible to use your credit card to buy some products from the handicraft shops. For example, you can buy like something like a carpet, use your credit card in that shop. But how it's working, that mostly these people have like account in Turkey and in Dubai. At it seems that you are making purchase, through Dubai or Turkey, not in Iran. That's why if you wanted to spend like more than 2,000 or whatever, you can use your credit card in some places. Sorry that I wear the mask because I'm going to the busy bazaar. So I'm going to turn the camera and you will see the products, vegetables, fruits, and whatever you need to make a delicious Persian dish in Rasht. And Rasht is a city of food. You know why? Because this city registered in UNESCO list as the creative city of food. They have wide variety of dishes. So this is the gate of bazaar and this is the entrance of bazaar. And you can see this shop is just selling meat. Iranian usually used to eat lamb, not beef, but in north of Iran they prefer beef. And if you wanted to know what is the favorite, breakfast for some Iranians is, I'm talking about this one. These are sheep's head. It's very disgusting, but for some Iranians, it's a really delicious breakfast. I hate it, but for some, it's really, really delicious. They just, cook it in a big pot with some spices and eat it for breakfast. And north of Iran is very famous for olive as well. You can see different types of olives in here, big and small, and nuts, and also cookies. They have very, very delicious cookies. I wish you were here to try this. And they have very interesting pastry. It's like the souvenir from Rasht. It's kind of dough